Hello again to everybody out there in YouTube world, all the travelers, all the vacationists and business travelers. Thank you for tuning into the channel as I try to give you information on various destinations, hotels, and other places to make your travels easy. As you all know, my last video, which was in regards to Cebu Pacific from Cebu Mactan International Airport to Clark in Manila, I decided that I wanted to do the return trip of Cebu Pacific 5J 4301 from Clark to back to Mactan Cebu International Airport. As the title indicates, Cebu Pacific Disaster and Tragedy, I would have to say that this trip actually was the epitome of a disaster and tragedy. The flight never took off, so it wasn't a crash or anything to that effect, but nonetheless, it was very detrimental to passengers. And basically, this flight, Cebu Pacific 5J 4301, was scheduled to depart Clark Airport at 6:15 p.m. on December 5th, and everyone was seated. It was arranged for gate 1 for the departure. Closer to 6 o'clock, because everybody usually checks through at around 5 o'clock or before, they decided that they would have a gate change, and they asked everybody to move to gate 9. Those of you who are familiar with Clark, it's a very small gate area, so gate 1 and 9 were not that far apart, no big deal. At 8:30, they came on to advise that the flight was delayed because of a mechanical issue with the aircraft, and their standard statement was that our safety is their concern and they're making sure the aircraft is properly fit to fly, and I agree with that. You don't want to put an unfit aircraft in the air. But nonetheless, at 8:30, everybody was waiting, and then they came on shortly thereafter and said it is again delayed until 9:45, since the technicians have advised them that they're still working on the problem. As per Philippine law, they were required to give passengers a meal and a drink, since people were there for 3 hours plus, some people with children, some people with infants. To my surprise, what they brought was a one-piece chicken and rice with gravy from Wendy's, which is one of the only shops actually in Clark. There's a Wendy's, there's a Chinese place, and another steak place, and then there's Subway and something else. So they brought this one piece of chicken with rice and a bottle of hot water. I made it very clear to them that that would not suit everyone, and I told them that what they needed to do was ensure that people are properly fed, and at the least have a cold bottle of water, if not a soft drink or a juice. The officer in charge, named Andrea, actually looked at me, and then she said, it's take it or leave it. Basically, if you don't want it, you don't get it, and that's your problem. That was one of the first, or I should say the second inclination of a problem with this Cebu Pacific flight. First of all, the constant delays. And actually, the flight was supposed to leave at 6:15, and the technicians, I would expect, were professional enough to know what exactly the problem was. And they could have determined that this aircraft would take quite a bit of time to repair, and flown in an aircraft from anywhere in the Philippines for within an hour. But they chose to let people wait there, and then when 9:45 came along, they decided to tell people you have to wait again and give people food which was inadequate. and I don't know if they expect an adult to be satisfied with one piece of chicken and a small portion of rice. So everybody was waiting. Some people ate. There was children crying, and the attendants at the front at the gate did not seem to really care. They were oblivious to what was going on. At around 10:45 p.m., they came on and then said that people would not be able to fly because the flight was canceled, and the flight would leave the next day at 7 a.m. And I'm going to do a separate video about that flight, and people can get an idea of what the flight from Clark to Cebu Mactan actually was. So in any event, what happened was I took the offer that they gave, that we would stay overnight, and they would put us up in a hotel, and then the next day they would bring us back at 7 a.m. We were now approaching 11, and at that point there was a stampede to get to the front. I guess people wanted to be first in line to get to the hotel, or to get the voucher to go to the hotel. This process was totally chaotic. There was no organization. People were coming from the sides, people were coming from all over, and Cebu Pacific should have been able to manage this much better, have a proper line, have everything organized. I'm sure this is not the first time they've experienced this and they've done this. By the time they were finished taking everybody's name and I guess making arrangements for the hotel, they just told everybody to sit and wait. And as people were waiting, some people were coming up. There were people with children saying, look, they're tired, they're hungry. Why can't they just direct them to go to the hotel? Some people were getting quite angry with them. So they told them where the bus was to take to go to the hotel which was Quest Hotel. And I'm making a video about the Quest Hotel probably in the next week or so you guys can have an idea about that. And again, I went to one of the agents. Her name was Audre, and I told her, I said, what kind of system do you have here that it's a one for all? Everybody's just scrambling to the front. You have people with kids. Why don't you take care of them first? Get the people with the kids to go to the hotel. At least the adults can wait. And pretty much she was very, very obnoxious and rude. She had absolutely no concern for the well-being of anybody. And these two individuals I actually wrote to Cebu Pacific about, to have them reprimanded, because they should never be representing a company. And I told Cebu Pacific they need definitely to bring their game up. This system, this incident was handled very, very poorly. So they told people that they booked a hotel and then you would go downstairs and you would go and get a bus to go. I asked them, so when you take the bus and go to the hotel, what is the arrangement for the next day? And they said that the bus would pick you up again at 5 a.m. to bring you back. So they would then be taking you from the airport at 12 p.m., take you to the hotel. By the time you get settled in, might be 1 a.m. Then you have to get up at 4 a.m. to catch that bus at 5 a.m. to come to the airport to catch a 7 a.m. flight. I told the agent, I said, that's ridiculous. Again, it was a matter of dealing with a brick wall. They just did not seem to want to do anything, said they could not do anything. That is how it was. I left and I went downstairs, and then I went to the actual check-in counter. I saw a supervisor there, and when I saw the supervisor, I explained the situation, and I told them that is just a ridiculous arrangement. And she looked at it and she said, well, there's a 12:15 flight. That's the one I'm going to be doing the review on. So that's December 6th, 12:15. I said, fantastic, that works well. And she just changed it right away. So basically, what that showed me is that people are either, some are trained, some know what to do, or some don't know what to do, or some just don't care. But that agent, unfortunately, I didn't get her name. I would have liked to give her a shout out because she was first class in dealing with that situation. In 5 minutes, she arranged and got me my change of time. and I was on my way. When I got to the front to get the bus, there was hundreds of people waiting there, and a bus of 20 or 30 people picking up and coming around, every half an hour or so, I guess. And that was total madness and ridiculous. So what I did, I hopped in a taxi. I went straight to the Quest Hotel. I determined that if I would wait until I got a bus, which I don't know when that would be, and then I get to the hotel, I'm hopping off again with 20, 30 people, and there's a mad dash to get to the check-in counter, the front desk, and I would be pretty much delayed for another couple hours. So I hopped in a taxi. I went to the hotel. Once I got to the hotel, it was pretty smooth. There was 1 or 2 people in front of me. In 5 minutes, I was checked in, and I was able to actually get into bed for 1 o'clock. And fortunately for me, there was a breakfast the next morning from 6 to 10, which I think is the norm in most of these hotels. And actually, those people who would have come and have to leave at 5, they would not be able to have anything to eat. So again, they would get to the airport probably hungry. Hopefully that 7 a.m. flight didn't delay and create the same problem. But in my case, I had no problem. I was able to get up, organize myself leisurely, take my breakfast, come back and relax for a bit, actually do the video on the Quest Hotel, and then go to the airport with the bus comfortably with just 2 other people, and get there and then check in. But overall, I wanted to make this video about this, as I said, this very tragic incident with Cebu Pacific. They get a 1 star for their handling of it. If I could give less, I would give less. So 1 star for their handling of it, 1 star for their organization, and 1 star for the employees who handled it. I do hope Cebu Pacific rectifies this situation. And while I was there, I spoke to many other passengers who were disgruntled, unhappy. Everybody said they understand delays, they understand safety aspects for an aircraft, but there are ways and means to handle things so that the process is as painless as possible. This process was torturous for just regular passengers, and I can imagine for the kids and those with infants. So again, overall, Cebu Pacific on this particular incident, I'm gonna give a 1 star. If I could give less, I'd give less. And I hope people watch this whole video. It's a bit long, but understand the kind of nonsense sometimes you have to deal with, and actually you have to bring it to the forefront. That's why I chose to do the video. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys can put some comments. If you've had similar experiences, let me know. And if you'd like me to do a video about your experience, do let me know, and I'm always willing to do something. So thanks again for watching. I know it's a bit of a long video, but I hope it gives you some information that will help you on your travels. Thanks again, and have a great day.